today I'm actually going to be focusing on the rear deck lid, the engine cover. I had said windows would be the next thing. I want windows to be the next thing. I even came out and installed the window, but as you can see, I've not cut a hole in the top yet. And basically that's because since I have a Roadster instead of a coupe, I don't have kind of the frame around it to give myself the reference points on where to draw a line to cut the door. And so I'm going to need help. I'm going to need two people, me and someone else, so that we can kind of hold things in place and draw all at the same time. Don't have that today, so instead I decided to get started on the rear engine cover because I can do that by myself. So what I did was I set it in place where it needed to be, got everything lined up, and then I came back with a Sharpie and drew a black line on how high it was, how much above the fender it was sticking out. And I got some measurements here in millimeters. And so I was going to cut it exactly to those millimeters, but then I decided that that probably wasn't a great idea because I don't know how accurate my measurements are because there's so much curve, especially up here in the top compared to up here in the back. I was afraid that I didn't get the measurement right, and so when I just eyeballed the gap, the white and the black, it's a little thicker on this end, but it's not 8.6 versus 3.25. So I decided I was just going to go take 3.5 mils off since that's the smallest number I have. So I colored the edge there with a silver Sharpie, and then I just came back with my caliper locked in at 3.5 and scratched a nice deep line in it. And I'm going to cut that off with the Dremel, and after that we'll put it back down and see how it fits. I'm very glad I didn't cut 8.6 mils off of the front here. I took 3.5 off and it is about perfect. So definitely that curvature there was affecting how I measured. So I took the 3.5 off and this edge was almost perfect. I had to take a little bit more off on the very back corner here. I took that off with a DA. I measured over here and it seemed the same, and so I took 3.5 off, and it actually wound up being too much at the front. I'm about almost 1/4 of an inch too shallow there, and it was really nice up to about here, and then it was high. So well, you can see where I started putting the Sharpie. It was high through there, so I had to use the DA to take that down a little, and still feels like it might be about 1/8 too proud. I might need to take that down just a tiny bit more. So the next thing to do is figure out how to get this fastened. So I think what I'm going to do, this is an open hole right here. I'm going to turn this over and put a flange on the bottom, and then glass a bolt into it so that it can go through the quarter panel here, and I'll just run a nut on the back, and that'll bolt that right there and hold it to the quarter side pod. And then on the back side I have to figure out how I'm going to attach it, but I can't do that until I figure out how I'm going to cut it, because that's the next thing I think is cut it. Well, actually probably before I cut it, what I'll do is I'll try to put something in to hold this crown in it so that after I cut it, the piece that comes loose will still have that crown held in it. So I think that might be the next thing, but just don't know. I think that panel's going to wind up changing so much that I don't think I'm going to be able to keep that crown. At least anything I will put in here to hold the crown will get cut out anyway, because what I want to do is basically I'm going to make a flying buttress. It'll look kind of like a Ferrari 360 with the soft top on. So the hard top's going to come down to a point that'll end right about here, and then everything else is going to get flattened out so that you can open the deck lid with the hard top on, because I don't have to pull the hard top off. In fact, my hard top's not going to be removable. So yeah, I think I get to get those flanges and get that mounted down. And well, before I do that, I could probably just clamp it down and go ahead and make the the fateful cut. And then I can figure out how to attach these pieces and then start working on how to shore up the middle piece. So, hey, let's do that. Let's cut something else instead of waiting on fiberglass to cure. All right, here we go. Let me get out my Sharpie and draw some lines. Okay, I decided that what I would do would be to as closely follow this support bar as possible to make my flying buttress as small as possible. So I used a quick square to find where the top meets that, perpendicular to that. And then I just kind of eyeballed it, not really eyeballed it, but I stuck my hand up under and felt where the bar was and tapped until I found right where I wanted to make this cut. So I marked those 2 points, and then I hung the laser level to get a straight line between those 2 points. And then I made a line parallel to this one for this cut. So this section here is going to stay on the car, and then everything on this side will open and close with the car. What I haven't decided is if I'm going to leave this hump here. I probably won't. I will probably cut the hump out because this isn't going to stay this low. This line here actually has to get built up till it's above the roll bar, and I think having a huge hump like that would look kind of funny. It'd look almost like a hatchback. So probably will flatten that center section out. Now the trick is to go make it symmetrical on the other side. So I'm going to make a cardboard template of this edge here, and that'll show me exactly where I want to mark that line. And then from the end of that line, I've already marked the same point on the other support beam. I'll be able to hang the level over there and get another line there. I got the other side marked up, and by every measurement I can pull, here to here, here to here, here to here, here to here, they're symmetrical. So now I just have to convince myself this is what I really want to do. If it's fiberglass, I can always put it back together, but that doesn't mean it would be easy. But this has been the vision since I started to make it a hard top with a removable center section. And I didn't buy the Factory 5 hardtop conversion, A, because it's expensive, and B, because I don't like the way it looks. The hatch is too long. It comes all the way to the back. I want it to be much shorter. Really accentuate the mid-engine aspect of the car. So I think this is it. I'm going to cut there, and this whole center section will come out, and then those 2 little pieces that are left are going to be what I start building up the top and the back window out of. Dust collection system's doing an okay job. Probably a really good job considering how much mess I've made, but I'm not dust free. There's still dust around here. Couldn't bring myself to make the cut yet. What I decided was I wanted to go ahead and bond the trunk cover onto the engine cover before I made the cut. Even though I plan on massively modifying the center section, I thought it was probably still in my best interest to go ahead and get these panels together. And that way I had something to start with when I started making the center, rather than trying to start so much from scratch. I just thought I would probably make my life a lot easier. So I went back and same process as on this panel. I cut the edges and sanded them until I got a nice profile on the sides. And all along here, I had to basically well, not the back edge. The back edge was fine. These 3 sides had to be trimmed and sanded until they fit. And then once I had them fitting, I took and sanded all the gel coat off. And you can see how bad the voids are in the corners of these panels. I'm afraid I'm going to have to sand every corner back before I do paint to know for sure that I've gotten all the voids out and I'm not going to wind up with a big crack or chip down the road. So I got this sanded back so that I can get a good bond. What I'm going to do now is come back with peanut butter and just jam it down inside this crease here and let it basically act like a glue. And then I'll come back and lay a couple of strips of fiberglass on top of that all along this seam. And once it sets up and gets hard, I'll flip it over, and that's where I'll put some big wide strips on to really create the strength. And then I'll sand this side back out smooth after I've cut it and decide what it's going to look like. For now, I just want it to hold its shape. So I'm going to mix up some peanut butter and get it down in there, and then lay a little fiberglass across the top. And then I will be having to find something else to work on overnight, or for at least till tomorrow. There. And I cut up my fiberglass so that I could lay some fiberglass down, and realized I'm out of catalyst for my resin. So yeah, I'm at a stop for now. It's lunchtime anyway, so I'm gonna go see if I can't find some catalyst local so that I can get out here after lunch and lay this fiberglass mat down. I listened to Eye of the Tiger a couple of times and got myself all psyched up. Made the cut. Or cuts. So, as you can see, the fiberglass cured. This panel was really good and stiff, which is great. Now that I've made the cut, I'll flip this over and put some more fiberglass on the back side and some wide strips to strengthen this up. And then that'll cure while I'm working on these pieces. Let's see, this is the driver's side. That's the easier side for me to get to. So, this set up here where it goes. And start figuring out exactly how I'm going to build this shape here. So what I'll probably do first is just use masking tape and stretch it and try and get a feel for what I want the lines to look like. And then I'll start gluing in some foam that I can use to build the buck. That is a little over 60 yards of tape, because it was one roll and then one more stretch out of the second roll. Good exercise, though. It really helped me with some things I was struggling to visualize. Mainly how I was going to handle this little inside edge here and bring it all back together. So this is kind of what I'm going for here. I'm obviously going to take these. I took some pictures of this, and I'm going to put them on the computer and kind of color them and make sure it looks kind of like I want it to here. But I think this is what I'm going for. Very small flying buttress. I have to have one because of the roll bar that comes right through here. As you can see, it ends here. So I'm going to come in, and then the roll bar extends down right there, so I'll go ahead and cover that up, and then this center section here will be glass, and this will be the shape of my cover here. I can't work out this area here until I get the window rolled up and see exactly where that lands, but kind of looking at what the roof line is going to look like. You know, the problem is that the windshield is much wider than the roll bar. So if I bring it straight back, I wind up way out here, and it makes the car look really boxy. So I'm going to get it as tight to the seat as I can. Now this is right on the roll bar, and I'm probably going to be, you know, up about an inch over the roll bar. So that'll give me a little bit of clearance here above the seat top. So anyway, the tape here is a good way to just kind of get an idea of the general shape and make sure I'm happy with it. Once I've done some sketching, done a couple renders, and make sure I think I know where I want to go with it, then I'll start, I'm going to take all the tape off and start putting foam on and start sculpting this out of foam. So let's go do some renders and see what it looks like. Alright, took a pic from my phone and put it on my iPad and just colored it real quick so that I could get a better visualization of how it's going to look in color. And the issue I'm seeing is that I think the flying buttress is too short. I want it short so that it really accentuates the fact that it's a mid-engine car, but I think it's a little too short right here. It looks a little stubby. I think I need to take it and bring it out. Right now it's about even with the front of the wheel well. I think I need to take it into about a third of the wheel well. I need to make it about 4 to 6 inches longer. So I'm going to go back out with some more tape and lengthen it a little bit and see how it looks. It didn't take a lot of tape actually to bring this point out. I brought it back a little bit further than I thought I was, just based on the renderings, mainly because there's a really good point right here that allowed me to bring the tape to. So it's about, I don't know, I wanted to go 25 to 30% into the wheel well. This is probably closer to 40 to 45. But I still think it looks really good, and this doesn't have to be the final shape. This is just to help me understand what I want the shape to be when I start working on the foam. So a couple of things that came out of this, I definitely think it looks a lot better coming back. I may bring it all this way this far back, or I may split the difference. Have to see what the rendering shows. But the other thing I realized is that if I'm gonna bring it this far back, what I probably need to do is bring it on down the edge on each side, because what I had been planning to do is have the trunk come out like this, and I'm thinking that's going to create an odd looking line, whereas I could just bring this all the way down to the back and then have the trunk open in the middle. So yeah, I'm gonna go put this back on the tablet and get it colored and see how this rendering looks, and then if I'm happy with it, it's off to Home Depot to buy foam. I've been using this pink foam, which is XPS, extruded polystyrene foam, for some of the rough fiberglass work I've been doing on the quarters and the tail lights. But this stuff melts when you put fiberglass resin on it, and so if I'm going to make a shape that I want to make a buck out of, I thought I would try to get some polyurethane stone foam instead of polystyrene. So I found these sheets at Home Depot that are polyurethane, or propylene, urethane I think. I'll check in just a second. But they have this foil on it, and just picking at the edge, it seemed like it'd be real easy to take off. But the problem is when you get about right here and here, there's a really good glue strip and it just shreds. And I can't get that foil off. So I'm not too sure what I'm going to do. I tried a heat gun and that didn't help. So I've asked the question on the forum where I got the recommendation to buy that type of foam, and we're going to see what they say. In the meantime, I am going to just kind of practice some techniques of trying to arrange the foam and get it set on here to where it'll stay, and just for a little bit of practice, and let's see how it goes. This is where it's very important that I remind anybody who's watching that I have absolutely no clue what I'm doing. This is a giant experiment, and I don't know that it's one that's going well. I made one solid piece there to kind of give me my back edge, which I was happy with. And then I cut another piece that was a solid piece right here, and it was made to kind of match this and that, kind of the gap. But then I ran out of big pieces, and I thought there's no way I'll be able to keep doing big pieces. There's got to be a different way to do this. So I started just cutting strips and gluing them in. And then I thought, well, I probably need to try and rotate the direction of my strips every layer so that it gives it a little more strength. I'm using 3M trim adhesive. I tested it on two pieces of this pink foam, and it's like glue. I mean, it sticks. It melts it together. It's not coming apart. So I'm not worried about that. I am, however, worried about just how hard it is going to be to shape this. So I've been thinking about a couple of other options. You know, a lot of people use the great stuff, just expanding foam, because you can just kind of come in here and build some layers up and kind of just paint or semi-sculpt the shape you want, and then come back and smooth it out. So I think I'm going to try that next. And then the other thing I've been thinking about is possibly just doing a couple of I guess, I don't know, ribs out of foam in a couple of places, and then stretching some kind of thin material across it, and then putting a light layer of fiberglass resin on the cloth to get it to stiffen up, and using that. I think that could work fairly well too for a shape like this, but maybe not for every shape. So I'm going to keep playing with it and keep experimenting and see where I get today. I'm hoping that this turns out better than when I tried to take a buck of the scoop using the expanded foam. I'm also hoping it sticks to the pink foam. I'm not too sure yet. So it's done expanding. It says it takes 8 hours to cure. So I'm going to let it cure overnight, and then maybe tomorrow we'll give it a try and see if it's cured up in the middle. Give it a little sand and see. It doesn't take very long at all to knock that big mess down using these rafts. It's about 15 minutes actually to get all this cut down. I certainly learned some things about using the expanding foam as far as trying to get good layers that stick together. I had some places that pulled apart where it just kind of chunked out, so learning a little bit there. I like the way the pink foam sands better than I like the way the expanding foam sands, but it is certainly a lot easier and quicker to build up with the expanding foam. Now I think part of the problem with the expanding foam is the density. I've got that 2-part expanding foam up there still that was a lot stiffer. I think it would be perfect. It would sand right and be expanding. The problem with that is obviously keeping it contained so that it doesn't run everywhere. That was the problem I had when I tried it to make a buck of the quarter panel scoop. Where I'm at now is this is kind of filed in as much as I can go, I think, without needing to build a little back. So yeah, but I'm out of expanding foam, so I think I'm gonna try and clean up the mess, because this makes a huge mess in a hurry. And after that, I'll go pick up another can of foam and fill in the little gaps that I have. And after that, I will be in a position to come back and try to actually put some kind of top coat on this and start finishing it. Or maybe it'll be a disaster and I'll throw this away and build another piece completely out of some other kind of foam. We'll see how it turns out. A little more foam on it. Filled in the little hole that was there, filled in the crack that was along here, and then added a lot more along the bottom because there's a dip or a scoop right here that I wanted to get rid of. And then I hadn't quite built up enough here. And I bought a different brand this time. The last stuff was great stuff. This is DAP. I also bought some GE. I'm going to try all three. This expanded a little smoother, and it expanded a lot more, which is what it said. It said 25% more. So we'll see. This has got to dry overnight, and it's kind of time for me to start getting videos ready. So next week we'll probably pick up where we left off here. We may get the windows done if I get some help. My dad's supposed to be coming out this week, but there's also a tropical storm in the Gulf, so we'll see what happens. We may get windows, or we may be back right here. We'll see next week. Thanks for watching, guys.